I'm Julia Sutherland and thank you for joining us this morning for this High Tune Into Tourism live interactive tutorial. And this morning we want to help you ride the wave of cruise tourism. Now, I know this can be a bit of a hot topic, but it is also a huge opportunity for you to grow your business. It's been another record cruise season for Scottish ports, and we're on course for 1 million passengers a year. Expenditure is estimated at £109.6 million, and based on current bookings, 912 vessels are heading for Scottish ports next year, an increase of 10.5% on this year, 2018, and passenger numbers are expected to rise up 15.8%. So that's a huge number of people coming here. And we've got 3 guests with us this morning to help us make the most of that opportunity for you. They're going to share lots of really useful and practical information and tips on how you can tap into this lucrative market. Now, first of all, we've got Richard Alexander from European Cruise Services UK Limited. Is that the full title,
That's
Richard?
correct. Well,
excellent.
Good morning.
Good morning. You have been involved in the cruise industry for a long time, since the 90s, I believe?
That's correct, yes. I started in around 1998 dealing with small ships, and I've seen the market grow and grow and grow over the years. And I'm also involved with Cruise Scotland, which is...
Former chairman of Cruise Scotland?
Former chairman,
that's
and
right.
we're a marketing organisation trying to make sure that the cruise ships come to Scotland.
Keep coming and keep coming in the numbers as they're growing. We're also very happy to be joined by Adele Walsh from...
Hi there.
Hello, all the way from Ullapool Harbour. Tell us what you do, Adele.
Okay, so I joined Ullapool Harbour about 6 years ago now, I think. Ullapool was a founding member of Cruise Scotland, and we work very hard to promote cruise in the Highland area. We're about an hour north of Inverness.
Yes,
Yeah.
and obviously you can tell from the accent, not necessarily a native, but you've been in Ullapool for what, 13 years now?
About that, yeah. I came for a week, yeah.
Yes, and you loved it.
Yeah, weird sense of time. Yeah.
It is a beautiful spot.
It's
and
gorgeous.
got an awful lot to offer, especially for cruise visitors.
Yeah.
Well, that's fantastic. We'll speak to you again shortly. We have also got Karina McKinnon from the Golf Shop of St Andrews joining us later to share her experiences of making the most of these guests to our shores. She has had great success doing that. But most importantly, we want you to ask your questions. We're here for you. This is the whole point of this. We want you to share your experiences, ask questions of our panel, and our producer Richard is standing by to do that in the chat box.
Morning everyone, thanks Julia. Yes, I'm here, and any questions you've got, any comments you've got, or any bits of best practice or anything like that, do share it with us. And if you want to put any questions to the panel, I will do exactly that. I know you're out there watching, and Melanie Henderson from Shetland, good morning to you. Thanks for getting in touch. And I've worn my special shirt today, which is what I imagine people on cruise ships wear. That's me trying to get into the part. So do get in touch. Oh, here's Rhonda from Orkney. So we've got Shetland and Orkney with us already. So do let us know where you're watching from, and let us know what sort of business you run as well. So Julia, back to you.
Well, I actually have lived in Shetland myself, so I have seen the cruise ships come in there, and it's it's kind of quite overwhelming almost when they come in. But this is really a big opportunity for tourism business, especially in the Highlands and Islands, and the people that are watching just now in the Northern Isles there. What are the misconceptions, though, Adele, about these guests, and what is the reality? Yeah,
there's no question that I think cruise can suffer from a negative PR. A lot of it, from our point of view, is a perception which seems impossible to get rid of, that they arrive into your port, they get on a coach, they go away, and they don't come back and the ship is leaving at the end of the day. That might happen in some ports. In our port, it doesn't. We have between 40 and 60% uptake in shore excursions, which means the remainder are around the village for the day. The other thing is, if you consider the size of our village, which has a population of about 1,500 people, and services to match, a volume of people coming off cruise ship will spend maybe an hour or two at the shops or shopping or whatever it is. They don't really need 8 hours to hang out in the village and shop all that time. So if they take a half-hour shore excursion somewhere to a beauty spot, a local beauty spot, there's more than enough time for them to shop and engage with the local community for the rest of their time.
And the local businesses.
Absolutely.
And spend their money.
Absolutely. And they have money to spend.
They certainly do. Yeah. Well, Richard, the statistics there, they're worth over 100 million, over 109, nearly 110 million pounds to the Scottish economy. So who are these guests? What is the demographic?
Well, the cruise passenger, the profile, the age profile is getting lower. It's coming down and I think it's coming to the high 40s, and they are from all around the world. I mean, we get passengers from America, from a lot of Europeans, Germany particularly is very, a lot of cruisers from Germany, and then you get the mixed nationalities that come with some of the ships. So we've got Russians, Spanish, Italian. So there's a great spread of passenger,
and they have money. I mean, especially in the smaller ships, don't they? They tend to have you know, a bit more cash in their pockets than the average person.
They've probably got a more disposable income in the smaller ships, because they pay more for their crews, so they've got more money in their pocket to spend.
And Adele, are is it the smaller ships that are coming to Europe?
Yeah, we actually, we could physically take quite large vessels, but we are always cognizant of the size of our village and the area. So we would typically, the largest number of passengers we would tend to take in is about 1,200 passengers. Now, interestingly, within the cruise business, a lot of the cruise companies are building bigger and bigger ships. And that is a growing trend, and that is the direction of travel, really. So you'll find in some of the larger ports that a typical cruise liner coming in could take anywhere between 3,000 and 5,000 people, and that is actually getting larger. That doesn't
That's double your population.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, that would swamp your average Highland village or area. The other trend is actually towards what they're calling expedition vessels. So they tend to be much smaller vessels carrying maybe between 200 and 500 people. They tend to be in the millionaire bracket. They tend to be very well off. They're high spenders. They're looking for a quality destination. They want a quality experience. We had some figures given to us a couple of years ago. So your average cruise passenger spends about €79 when they're in port. With average spend for crew being in the region of €25. So I suspect that's gone up slightly. It also depends on the type of ship and the profile of passenger coming in, obviously, but they're average figures. We are finding that with the smaller vessels, they mightn't spend if they don't perceive that there is a quality offer at the destination. There's no question about that.
Right.
So you've got that kind of balance to.
So you've got to match their expectations in terms of quality and uniqueness of the experience as well.
Yeah. And they're tending to spend on experiences as much as product. You know.
And Richard, that's one of the things that you do, you know, at ECS is create these experiences, isn't it?
That's right. Yeah, we create the shore tours and the experiences, and so we have to tailor them towards the ship and the nationality, and you know, the market that they're in, so that we get the right balance.
And what are they looking for?
Well, they're looking for all sorts of things. You go from the volume tours where they want to go and see Loch Ness, right down to the people that want to hire a private car to take them to the various sites and sounds and go for lunch, and they're looking for more for local immersion. So they want to see the people, they want to get to know the area.
Those are key words that keep coming up. Last week we were talking about food and drink tourism, and it was really that making the most of our local produce, the things that we already have. What is our specialty? What is it that's unique about this place?
Yes.
And it's the same, isn't it, for these passengers?
They want to make sure that they see the best of the area, and they get to know, they love to meet the local people, and you know, be able to chat to them and have contact with the locals.
So that does sort of bust that myth that they're just coming and being shipped off. They are actually interested in staying.
They are interested, and also the most popular tours are half-day tours, so that they come back for lunch to the ship, and then they come back and have lunch ashore, and then they have the afternoon, for instance, to spend looking at the shops and just getting into the area.
So there's two opportunities there. One, to create an experience, some kind of trip, some kind of activity, a demonstration, something like that. And then there's also an opportunity for retail, for selling them local produce. I think both of you would agree it's not necessarily as well just about that immediate opportunity for them to spend money there and then. It's also about an advert, isn't it, for them to come back, an advert for the place.
I mean, we've always looked at cruising as a shop front for the country, so that the people may only have a day to spend in Scotland or 2 days, And really that's to show them the best we can of Scotland and make them want to come back. And we certainly get a lot of feedback from passengers saying that they're going to come back on a land-based tour and spend more time in Scotland. So it's a good way of advertising our product.
And how important is it then to get the buy-in of the whole community? Because everybody needs to be doing that, don't they? Because everyone they come into contact with needs to be giving them that welcome and making them feel like this is a place I want to return to.
Oh yeah, I mean for us it's critical. I think if you sail into Edinburgh, you have the natural amenities and attractions that a city the size and the beauty of Edinburgh will offer you. When you come to smaller, say for example Highland ports, just as an example, we are totally reliant, as a harbour, we are reliant on the community to get together to create that welcome and that sense of a Highland welcome for them. So typically that will come from the local businesses because that is their main source of interaction with the cruise passengers. So even though as a port we invest really heavily in the actual welcome that we give shoreside, once they leave the harbour itself, it is so up to the local businesses to actually be there with a smile on their face and see how it is they can match or exceed our visitors' expectations.
And they'll benefit from that too. I mean, I think you said your local pub does well from these.
Yeah, well, I mean, because any business that we have engaged with and that have engaged with us on this front, I would say, not across the board, it will always differ from one visit to the next, but I see people, we're all learning as every different cruise company comes in. But so some are more profitable than others and some have different requirements to others. But yeah, there's no question that different businesses are doing very well out of particular visitors, yeah.
Well, we do have some... We have some films to share with you, not right now. We're going to share those with you during our Facebook Live session, hopefully tomorrow, or through the YouTube channel. But we did go along to the Scottish Cruise Summit at Victoria Quay in Edinburgh at the end of October. Richard, you were there, and delegates were looking at how Cruise Scotland and the wider tourism industry can work with cruise lines to sustain industry growth, address industry challenges and capitalise on the opportunities over the next 5 years. And it is, you do have to look ahead, don't you, Richard, in terms of the timeframes. This is something that you need to be thinking about now. In fact, you need to probably have been thinking about 2 years ago.
Yeah. I mean, it's for us, it's a 2-year lead-in that we are already putting things in the diary for 2019, 2020, 2021. We're even booking in bookings for that. So it's constantly, we are just about finished with a lot of our proposals for next year. And so we'll then be moving on to 2020. So there is a bit of a lead in to get into the market.
Yeah, I guess it's something to be thinking about as soon as you possibly can. Yeah. Richard, who else have we got watching in the chat box there?
Well, we've got plenty of people watching. I've got a bit of a battered ego though at the moment, but we do have Joan, our friend Joan in Dornoch has joined us, and we've got Joanne, Jolene and Melanie who are all in Shetland, so I'm just wondering if they're all watching together or if they're in separate parts. But I'm going to talk a little bit more about this later on, but I did the terrible thing of asking people watching if they've been tuning into our Facebook Live sessions, and everyone said no, which is devastating. But I'll tell you a little bit more later on about what we do in the Facebook Live sessions and why we do them and what you can get out of that and how to follow them and how you can get notified on that. But the main reason was partly wanted to tell everybody about the extra bits of content that we do share and that we will share, but I was just wanting to know if there was any demand out there for my Tiger Woods anecdote, but it seems that there isn't. So for now, back to you, Julia.
Maybe that's one for when we have Karuna McKinnon from the Golf Shop of St Andrews later. That might be a little bit more of an appropriate time to share that story, or maybe never be a time that's appropriate to share that story. So yes, please do get in touch with us if you have any questions for our panel, or if you have any experiences of your own to share. Joan in Dornoch there, what a fantastic example of the community pulling together. We went up and talked about community tourism and what an impact they've had on their local businesses. But we have established that this is a market, the cruise tourism is a market that we need to understand. The guests are a little bit different, they have specific needs, but they do represent a real opportunity. So how do we, tourism business owners, tap into this lucrative market? Richard, what is the first step then for a tourism business?
Well, there's two ways of approaching the market. There's either through the ground handlers like ourselves, where we will try and put together a package, including the whatever services we can find, and we're always looking for new ideas. We're always expanding our product line to make sure that we're covering all the markets. So we were always interested in hearing from suppliers that have got good ideas and good products to sell to us. So there's that side, and then there's also the other side of the market is the independent passenger who doesn't necessarily book a tour through the ship, and they come ashore looking for something to do. And that's where the local tourist groups are very important, that they're there to welcome the passenger ashore and give them information. And that's another way to market in a way, is to make sure you have your details in front of the local tourist group, and that they have leaflets or whatever to distribute to the passengers as they come off the ship.
Now, you said that you could get in touch with somebody like you. I think Richard has your email address, and you're happy for us to share that in the chat box, yeah? And we'll stick that as well in the information below if you're watching this on YouTube. But they don't necessarily need to come to you with a fully formed package. You can help. You can actually work with them on that to develop
Absolutely. We once we know what we're looking at, we can start to maybe put it into a package with a guide, a coach, and maybe another visit somewhere else. And maybe put it on a theme. So it could be a food and drink theme. It could be themed in some way to make it more easy to market.
Well, you talk about that. I think we discussed before, and we've got some people watching in Orkney. That was an example of the kind of thing that you do, a taste of Orkney.
That's right. We have a tour where they go to a local restaurant, and it's a cooking demonstration, and then they eat the produce from the very best of the produce from Orkney, and that's proving very popular.
Okay. And what other things are popular? Is food and drink a sort of major theme, or is it activities? Is it what kind of things can we be thinking about?
There's food and drink, and I mean there's the whiskey tasting, the drink tasting, the beer
always
tasting,
popular.
always popular.
Yep.
Then there's as the age profile has dropped of the cruise passengers, there's more activities. So there's cycling, walking, canoeing, archery. There's all sorts of activities that the passenger is interested in. So
if you're an activity provider, then there's an obvious opportunity for you there. But perhaps if you're not somebody who does provide an experience, perhaps if you are a restaurant, and another one is the accommodation providers. I mean, what can you really do?
Well, the restaurants can attract by maybe putting on a special menu or advertising what they have to offer via the local tourist group, and if they can organise like a cooking demonstration, and we would be happy to try and package that up. And
it's especially flagging up those local produce, the uniqueness of the what they can offer.
It's all down to the local experience, the local immersion is where the interest is.
Adele, what have you done in Ullapool?
Right, so probably about 10 years ago now, we invested in shoreside facilities. So we have a dedicated marquee with luxury toilets at the landing pontoon. The toilets have proved really popular.
I was going to say, everybody talks about your toilets.
They're gorgeous. You could just come and hang out in the toilet. But apart from that, we have engaged far more closely with the local business community in an effort to bring the pier closer to the village, even though we're right there, shoreside anyway. So what we've done is we've set up an orange buoy trail. So on the morning of every cruise, we hang orange buoys outside participating businesses, and then when the guests come ashore as part of the welcome, they receive a postcard with a little map of the village, and it highlights where the buoys are and what the businesses are, and it means that if you go into these businesses, you will get either a discount or a demonstration or a free gift on buying X amount of whatever, and it is a way for them to engage. So that has proved immensely popular with the local retailers, because I think they see it as they're far more confident. They know when the ships are coming in. They know that that's the day they might bring in extra staff, or they'll set up particular displays or whatever it is. It's proved very popular with the cruise passengers because they see it as a way to engage. They mightn't buy 100% of the time, but they will go in, they'll have a chat. And given that our businesses are they're the first face of, hi, you're welcome to the area. On both sides, it's proved really, really popular. So we'll keep that going for sure. The other thing is we work very, very closely with our local museum, who are critical to our offer in that they're our local heritage centre, our local culture centre. So their staff are really good. They come down, they volunteer with us in the marquee, and they also do guided walks around the village. So they've been tremendous from that point of view. And that has proved very, very popular as well with visitors. Yeah.
Richard, Adele mentioned there maybe on the days when businesses know that there's going to be that extra influx of people, they'll put extra staff on. How important is it then to think about your opening hours, the days that you're opening and these things? Can that have a big impact?
Yes, it can, and I think it's good that the ports like Ullapool are working with the businesses so that they will know when the ship's coming in and when it's sailing, because that's quite important.
Can you get that information if you're not got that relationship? Can you get that yourself as a business owner?
Some of the ports have websites that have all the timings on them.
Right.
But it's really up to the port has to advertise what the calls are, when they are, and how long they're in for. And the ports are quite key, and they're all working very well together, and producing and working with the suppliers in the area and the businesses, and that's good. The one appeal I would make is we deal a lot with the German market, and they have problems with currency.
Right.
So, it's worth considering to see if you can take euros as currency.
And have some businesses successfully enough to do that?
Yes, some do that.
Yeah.
And I think that's worth considering.
Because either you lose the customer altogether, or you
Yeah.
know.
It's not so bad now with the credit cards and contactless payments, but a lot of the passengers come off without cash. So.
Well, and the other thing to think about, Richard, we're going to come to you. I believe you've got some questions in just a second. But before we do, the kind of things that they're buying, I think, there's that, they have all this fantastic food on board the ship, so they're maybe not necessarily that's not going to be the first thing they're looking for, food and drink, but they're looking for other things to sort of have as keepsakes, whether that's artwork, jewellery, what other things are they wanting to spend their money on?
Yeah, I mean, the jewellery, the easy to carry items, they tend to go for, because they're obviously got to think about packing up and going home, so they maybe can't buy such big bulky items. So the jewellery and the local jewellery is very popular, and paintings and artwork.
So that's maybe something to think about, perhaps diversifying if you're retail.
Can I just add? I think one of the things they do that we don't appreciate enough is they are really, a lot of them are happy to buy and have stuff shipped to them. Right. And I think particularly in smaller areas, that's something that some businesses aren't as set up for. And it's more work and all the rest of it. But if you sell a piece of art or whatever it is, and you're happy to do the packaging, a lot of them are very happy to do that. And they've got the money to spend. They have the money to spend, yeah. Richard, I believe you have a question for us.
Yes. Thank you, Julia. I do. I've got quite a bit of action in the chat room now, so thanks everyone for getting in touch. There's a few things here. Maybe we could do it sort of one by one, actually.
Okay.
But Richard, who has got in touch, Richard Tarvez, I hope that's pronounced right, and he operates Stornoway Town Hall. And he says that they dip their toes in the water of running pop-up events for cruise ship visitors this year, which sounds really interesting. But he was just wondering if there's any way of dealing with and how you find out really about changes to cruise itineraries and cancellations, because I get the impression they've maybe had some sort of experience of things changing at the last minute. Is there some information that Richard might be able to share with us there?
Or Adele, does either one of you want to tackle that?
Yeah, the ships are affected by weather like any other floating asset, and so there are times when they maybe don't call in when they should, but it's usually a last minute decision, and again, the port is the first to know about it. We get to hear about it further down the line.
So it's
But
staying in touch with the port then?
It's staying in touch with the port, really, I think, is the thing. And maybe there should be a bit of a cascade information service where they could send an email just to all those involved.
Mm-hmm.
But
they maybe need to be a little bit more proactive about that. I suppose if it's going to affect your business, then it's...
Yes,
you know,
it is a difficult one. I mean, we have to put up... sometimes the ships can't land the passengers, so they just sail past on to the next port. And it's a big disappointment for everybody, including the passengers, but it's a fact of life. And it just happens. It doesn't happen very often, but it does happen occasionally.
Mm-hmm. Adele, have you had any experience of that?
Yeah, definitely. Weather tends to be the main reason for a last minute call off. So, you know, for example, there was one Sunday morning this summer where we saw the ship on the approach to the harbour, and you just chickened out, but you're not going to come in, it's okay. But on those mornings, yes, it's one of the things to remember is to let the businesses know that actually, sorry guys, it's off today. But it will, 9 times out of 10, it'll be weather, which is always last minute.
And there's not really much we can do about that.
There's nothing we can do about that.
Unfortunately.
Okay, well, I guess stay in touch with your port is the answer to that question, because they're going to be the first to know. Richard, do you have another question for us?
I do have another question. I've got a few actually, but Ruth Dale's got quite an interesting question, which is like looking at sort of different, you know, visitor demographic, I suppose. But like, is there something specific that you can offer for the visiting cruise? Because they're going to have a different needs from the sort of tourists on the boat.
Yeah, that is a big one. Don't forget about the crew, because the crew probably will be looking for food and drink in a way that the passengers aren't. What else are they looking for? How do we cater for them?
Well, I mean, I remember watching a program on the television, and they were saying that the biggest sales that were made were at the charity shops, because they're looking for clothing and and books and CDs and things. So, but the crew buy a lot of food.
Right.
They go to the local supermarket, they buy food, they buy again local produce, and that's what they're looking for.
Adele, you said that their spend is maybe about a third of the you know what the passengers are spending.
Which even it surprised me. Most of the crew that I meet at any rate tend to be Filipino, and you're absolutely right about the charity shops. And I tried to haggle with one of them for a bicycle this summer because he got a great bike at the local charity shop. But typically they do buy a lot of food, which means they will run to Tesco. But they also buy quite a bit of drink. So they will go to the local gift shops and buy whiskey, and they also buy books. We've been seeing quite a lot of book sales and postcard sales. So they might buy smaller items just for themselves as well. Yeah.
Well, that's interesting to know sort of what they're looking for. Richard, another question?
Well, I've got a couple of comments actually, and I know like you guys who are watching this live now will see the comments in the chat box, but if you are watching this on catch up on YouTube and you don't see the comments, there's some really interesting stuff here. Firstly, I'll quickly mention Ellie Trim, who runs a sailing business, and she's had a few people come and do sailing on her sailing boats, and I asked her what she's done to try and attract more visitors. She said she'd had conversations with the ground handlers, but it hasn't really been all that successful for her. But the most interesting thing is Joan in Dornoch. Now, Joan is a champion of community tourism who was on a previous webinar, and they worked really hard trying to stop. They say in Dornoch they tend to be a sort of a toilet stop rather than anything more significant. So their challenge is to try and get visitors who are going past them to stay for half a day rather than sort of 20 minutes. And they are doing stuff where they are welcome. They've got Dornoch ambassadors who welcome the coaches when they arrive. They offer reduced group entry to museums, and they're trying to persuade the coaches all the time to stay longer. They've had contact with ground handlers who let them know about times of ground arrivals. And they prepared a video for ground handlers and met some of them at the Invergordon workshops and investigated a Dornoch alone tour, which was 4 hours spent in Dornoch, allowing people to do candle making, whiskey and gin tasting, museum and town guided tour, and golf, as well as there's 20 independent shops in Dornoch. So they're working really hard with ground handlers, with arrivals, and working really hard to try and persuade tourists to spend that little bit longer and that little bit more money. But I guess that's probably why Joan has won awards for this kind of thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's a couple more, but I'll talk about that later. So Julia, back to you.
Yes, I think every community needs a Joan. It's a shame there's only one of her. Richard, we're going to have to let you go in a second because we're going to get Karina in. But before we do, Joan, there obviously talking about that opportunity to have demonstrations for the ground handlers and for the people that are coming, who are making up these trips. How do you do that? How do you tap into that so you can sort of show them and they've had personal experience?
Well, she's been working with the ground handlers, which is a great idea, because we can try and adapt the tours to make sure that they have time to take in the demonstrations. And
it suits your specific requirements.
Because we if it's a half-day tour, we've only got 4.5 hours, and so we want to get as much value and content into that 4.5 hours as possible. But if we don't know it's happening, we can't allow for it. So that's why it's very good that there's people like Joan who will contact us and let us know what's going on.
So that's probably your main. Is that your final word?
My final word is speak to us.
Speak to you.
We're very approachable.
And your email, I believe, Richard, if you haven't already put it in the chat box, he will now, and we'll share that. Richard, thank you very much for joining us for today and for sharing all your insight. So we're going to speak, as promised, to Karina McKinnon from the Golf Shop of St Andrews just now. We're going to swap over. But before we do, or as we do that, Richard, have you got any more comments coming in there from the chat box?
Absolutely, I do. Now, I've lost a bit of track. Were you guys talking about toilets, or is it here that we're talking about toilets in the chat box? But there's basically Joanne. She's got a pop-up restaurant, and she says that people are kind of interested, but it's persuading them to spend money is a challenge for her. She found with their pop-up food that they like bakery goods. The cruise visitors is what she's sharing with us here, and I think it was really related to Joan and like the toilet stop, and Natalie, who's got a French name. I did a French degree. I should give it a go. I could probably give it Fabre avec Temor, something like that. She confirms that she's a big fan of the Highland toilets, but they are much cleaner and more modern than the ones in France. And she's thinking of creating a portaloo for rambling ladies. There you go. So thanks very much for that, Natalie. Joan is continuing. Hello, Grace. Grace joined us late. She's from Mull Aquarium. And Ruth is who asked the question about visiting crews and their needs. She said her experience is like, is that kind of challenge of changing money, and she says her experience, they kind of want to visit churches, but like maybe doing something for her. One of her ideas is providing free passes for museums and attractions for the crews, and that might in the future encourage them to sort of share that information. Share that information with visitors later on. So just kind of reading through some other things here, but do carry on, keep getting in touch, and later on we will go back and I'll let you know about how you can follow our Facebook Live sessions and what we do those for, which I've still not told you. But for now, Julia, back to you.
Thank you, Richard. Yes, and in our Facebook Live session, we will be sharing some insight from Peter Wilson, who we also met at the Cruise Summit a couple of weeks ago, and he's very knowledgeable and has loads of great information. So please do tune in tomorrow or on Tuesday when we do our Facebook Live sessions, and we'll share those with you. Now, as promised, we've got another great guest.
Morning.
Richard has turned like Doctor Who into you. You are a member, Karina, of Cruise Forth, Cruise to St Andrews organisations. You regularly speak at seminars, educating fellow businesses because you do such a good job. And you've actually got a rather showbiz background.
I do.
Involving sequins, I believe.
Many. A sparkle a day keeps the doctor away, that's what I say. Good. Well, I did work on ships myself for 16 years, both on board and behind the scenes on land, in the entertainment side of things as cruise director and singer. So when I learnt that ships were coming into St Andrews, it all just came flooding back. And I thought, I need to do something with this energy and use it and capitalise on the business.
So how did your background then working on the cruise ships help you in your new job, not so new now, but working as a manager at the Golf Shop of St Andrews?
Well, first-hand experience. I know what it's like to live on board, and I know what the passengers' expectations are and how to meet them, and how it feels when you disembark the ship and you get into port. What are you looking for? You've only got a certain amount of time, so you want to get to the shops. Where are they? How do you get there? where do you eat? Where are the toilets? You know, it's,
Everyone is
it
obsessed
is.
with toilets.
It's honestly. So it's knowing firsthand how to manage that and how guidance can help.
So what did you see as being the main opportunity then for your business?
Well, from personal experience, I remember being in Gibraltar, and yes, we all went to Morrison's because that's what the crew do. And I was walking down the street, and we were going to a makeup shop, and there was a poster in the window, and it just said, if it was the Thompson Spirit I was on at that point, and I thought, oh, they know we're here. They've considered us. They've made the effort. It's got our name on it. I'm going in there, and it was like a magnet. It's just that magnetic force that just drives the customer in, and then you go and spend your money there.
So that's what you did, didn't you?
That's
I think
what
you've
I
got
did.
some props that you can show us. You started off small with a poster in the
Yes,
window. Have you
I'll
got?
show you. Oh, I'm attached. Okay, so we started off, we have an A board outside the shop. This is our little 10% discount leaflet.
And that's
as
a
well.
flyer.
The
Who do you
shop's
give
on
those
there.
flyers to?
I give them to Peter Wilson of Cruiseforth, and he takes them and puts them on board the ships.
So that's the welcome team, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They meet the volunteers meet the guests as they get off the ship, and they know about us before they even get on the coach. You know, they know we've got a map on there. They can find us. They can work it out. They've got an hour to work it out while they're sitting on the coach.
And you offering them a discount or anything on there?
10% discount.
Yep. Okay.
So although the passengers have money to spend, everybody loves a deal.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how much money you've got. So
And to be
we
made to
offer-
feel special, like you did that time in Gibraltar.
Yeah. So you offer the discount. They're more likely to go into you. We're the last golf shop you reach. So we really need to work harder because they could have spent their money before they get to us. So we'll go and meet them at the coaches as well and hand these out.
And what about in the window then? What have you got?
In the window and on the A board outside, we put up, like you say, we started off small. We put up simple. All it says is cruise passengers 10% discount, tax-free shopping. Important. They like tax-free.
Who doesn't?
They do that on board as well, though. You see, so that's I knew from being on board in the shops what the duty-free shops do. Don't get confused between duty and tax, though. But they offer tax-free shopping. So, and what I've done, more importantly, is to put the ship's logo on, which is instantly recognisable. They know it. They see it all the time. They love the logos.
Where did you find that? How do you do that?
I go on the internet,
Yeah.
download the image and use it. So if there's multiple ships in, it's great to use one that's generic, cruise passengers 10% off. If there's one ship in, I'll do that. And that's...
Put the actual name of the ship on
Yeah,
there.
and Royal Princess, great earner for us. And put the logo on it, put their name on it, you know. So that's a bit more specific
Personalise
to
it
them.
as much as you can.
Totally. And the German ships, we put up the sign in German, which is even better. And when I recruit staff, I'll try and find staff that are maybe have a second language and who are able to promote. So they're the ones that I'll send out. I'll stick a golf cap on them and take some leaflets, and off you go to go down and meet the coaches and wait on the return. Really
Fantastic. And you've also got one more thing down there.
the big one.
Yeah, the big one. You put on the
So-
A-frame. It's
Yeah, so this is how we started off with this size. Now we've got this, which is 4 times the size, and this 6.
And why did you do that, Karina?
Because the shop next door is offering 10% too, but it took him 3 years to work that one out.
Right.
So this sits over the A board like that, and it says it's got the same information. Can you see that? But what I do have is this interchangeable A4 piece. Like I was saying, so this is your generic sign, and if it was a Royal Princess or just one ship, then take it off and just replace it.
Pull it away. Yeah, that's it. Sorry, it was like against your microphone, I think.
Oh,
was
was it? Okay.
Sounded like thunder.
Did I get that point across?
Yeah,
Okay.
yes, I think
I
you
did.
have.
Okay.
That's brilliant. Okay, thank you so much. You can stick them down. So lots of practical suggestions there, Karina. And I just wanted to ask before we move, because I think there's some questions coming in. Where do you find out that information, the names of the ships and when they're coming in? What's your contact?
My contact is Peter Wilson at Cruiseforth. He's been absolutely fantastic, and we've got a really good relationship. Very in touch all the time.
How regularly do you speak to him? Are you proactive about that, or are you?
Oh, both of us, yes. Like during the season, during the summer, we'll be in touch every day. So what he'll do is he will specifically tell me what time the coaches are coming in, how long they're going to be here for, and when they're going to leave.
Right.
So that means that I can send my staff down at that time, 10 minutes before, sort of thing, to meet and greet the coaches.
So building that relationship is so important.
Yeah, really important, because he's got the information, but also the schedule I did get from Peter this year actually, but you can find it online.
Where online?
Capitalcruising.co.uk.
I think Richard's got those links. He's going to put those up in the chat box as well. Capital Cruising. Well, there you go. It's as simple as that. But we'll stick them in the chat box as well there in case you missed that. So that's one website you can go to if you don't have a Peter. Haven't built that relationship yet. You can find that out yourself.
Yes, you can. Yeah, and cruisemapper.com.
That's another one Richard's got.
Talking about the weather, with the impact with the weather, and we've experienced that too. But Cruise Mapper, you can track the ship, so you can see where it's going. And so if you think, oh, the weather's a bit dodgy today, you could maybe go on Cruise Mapper and you can see the little arrow, sail past your port.
You go, okay, won't be sending my German-speaking chap with a cat down to the coaches today. Right, well, that's fantastic. Richard, do you have any questions? I realise we're actually hoofing along here. We're running out of time. Any more questions coming in the chat box there?
Plenty, and I love a good hoof. Right, lots of stuff going on. Natalie, I know it's not your fault, but please stop pressing enter on your computer. You've asked the same question now 25 times, and it's probably, and I know your internet connection runs out every minute, but it must be very frustrating for
What's the question?
I'm not really sure, actually, to be honest. But she's just talking about like the cruise industry growing, and with excess money that's being generated could be invested in sort of renewable energies and combustibles and onboard devices and cooking and stuff like that. So that's an excellent point, Natalie. Again and again and again and again and again and again. But here are the things. We have a question from Elaine that she said, well, not a question, she says that they use what'sinport.com as a place. I'm trying to scale back, I've got to go through so many of these other bits. What'sinport.com is a good site for finding out when boats are arriving. I'll share that link again. Rhonda is very, doesn't want to open a can of worms here, she says, in Orkney, but they're finding a bit of a balance between businesses and locals, and it sometimes can be quite overwhelming for the local community if a lot of people arrive. So she was wondering if any of you had any advice for how to just sort of maintain that, keep the community happy when there's this sort of huge influx of visitors for a short period of time. And then one final question from Richard, who kind of a bit like me actually says he just wants a bit of clarity. What do you mean by tax-free shopping? If it's like VAT-free, what does that all mean? If you're refunding VAT, they're not already getting a 20% discount. So does anybody know exactly what that means? And then Joan's given him a bit of an explanation there. So those are the main things. So back to you, Julia.
Okay, well, there's 2 points there, and actually the retail opportunities can extend beyond just their trip. I know, Karina, you have people who will then visit your website and buy things long beyond the time that they've gone, which is something to think about. So can you just explain very quickly the tax-free, not duty-free, tax-free?
I'll do my best because it is quite complicated, but tax-free, though US, Canadians, etc., they don't pay tax well, it's included in our price, isn't it? But theirs is added on at point of sale.
It's different in each state, isn't it?
Yes, really, yes. There's a lot going on, but so they can claim that back at the airport.
Right. There's a form they fill in, isn't there?
Yes, yes, and they have to do it at point of transaction, and we have to sign it, and they have to show the passport.
So do you get the forms into the shop then?
We physically create the forms.
You physically create the forms, and you print them off
Yes.
online. What's the website you go to for that? Do you know?
No, we print them off. They come out the card machine, sorry.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, so we'll put in their credit card and it'll say, can the customer have tax-free shopping?
Ah, right.
Yes,
okay.
and then the form comes out.
Where can people go to find out a wee bit more information about that?
Well, there's a really good article on cruisecritic.com,
right,
and it explains duty-free shopping, which happens on board, and tax-free shopping, which happens on land, and it explains the difference.
Well, that's a good one. Richard, did you get that?
Yeah, I'm just going to check it's the right website.
Okay,
No,
and you put the link in.
Cruise.
Adele, whilst Richard's doing that, the other question, I guess, was that fine balance between managing the locals, maybe in the impact on the locals as well as the impact on the businesses, and how do you manage that?
Well, thank you so much for giving me that question.
Tricky,
Okay,
I know. Well, I mean, I said when I lived in Shetland, and it can be a little bit overwhelming when you have all these people coming in to a small place.
Yeah,
you know, and you're talking about the big ships coming in, you're doubling your population. That's how do you manage that?
Well, we don't. We actually
don't?
have a policy decision not to.
Right.
But we could match the population. Yes, sorry. On the day we could
Yeah.
double. I beg your pardon. Yeah, we could. But we have a cut off.
Right.
And we also have a policy that unless there's an emergency or something, we will not have two ships
Right.
at anchor on a particular day. So, I don't propose to handle Orkney's issues for them because it's a different problem.
Yeah.
Sometimes I wouldn't mind a bit of it.
Well,
But
what's
anyway,
just
I
a
think
general?
you have to be sensitive to the local community. And in Ullapool, for example, we live in what I regard as a fragile environment. And environmentally, we have to be conscious of what we're doing as well. So I think if you keep that in mind, that's the number one thing. But secondly, if the businesses are engaged and if the local community through the businesses starts becoming more engaged, and we have beyond, say, retailers, our golf club is involved. They're very good. They have a package built up. Our museum is involved. So in a smaller community like that, it is slowly but very effectively you can stay in contact with people,
And almost everybody gets to have a positive impact in a way.
or at least they get to share their views, which is just as important, so that
Right.
they don't feel like they're howling into the wilderness. And I think this year, we had particular conversations with some locals who were concerned when they saw a mega ship coming into Lerwick. It was good in a way because we got to reassure them that actually, well, it won't happen here. Now, that's not taking from Lerwick's issue on the same day, but that said, that I saw that was discussed on some community board as well, and it got thrashed out too.
So communication,
absolutely,
really important.
it really
listen,
talk. And yeah, absolutely. But then you've got other ports which are they're private enterprises, so their job would be to bring in as much business as possible. So we're a trust port. It's a different kettle of fish.
Not really something we can solve right here, right now. And actually, we are out of time. I am going to go to Richard for one last comment. If you can try and keep it brief, Richard, and then we'll get the final thoughts from Karina and Adele. Richard.
I have one last question, which is probably a yes or no question.
Good.
And it might be Richard from the green room might have to shout his answer. But do cruise ship companies ever look for 2-day excursions when they come to visit? Do they ever come for 2 days? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, they do.
And how can you find out more about that?
You need to look at the websites, the cruise map.
The
Need to look at
websites,
the
the cruise mappers,
cruise
and
map,
the different websites that
For
we've
the
shared. So
centres.
scroll back on the comments thing there, Mike, and you'll see those websites. And there's more questions coming in, but we'll have to leave it there. Julia, back to you.
Well, do keep that conversation going. As we earlier, Richard shared Richard Alexander from European Cruise Services email address. So get in touch with him. I know you might regret giving out his email address, but that's part of, that's the whole point, is that you need to start communicating and working together. Final thoughts, Karina, what would be your number one thing that you would take home message from today?
From a retail point of view, let people know you're there, and let them know how they can find you. Put something in the window and honestly you'll see results.
What kind of results have you
immediate.
seen?
Well, just the increase in revenue, and we offer a gift collection, which is what we do. It's a simple package. The passengers don't have much time, so they don't have to think about it.
You
So
do the work for them.
We do it all for them. They go, that's just perfect. Engage with them, give them an experience. Don't just be a shop.
Yeah, and that is something that we keep saying in tourism, isn't it? Really about engaging and being human. Yeah, and not just making the sale and then forgetting about it. Adele, what's your final thoughts?
Yeah, visitors are looking for really authentic experiences. That doesn't have to mean really expensive, but they want Scottish. They don't want made in China all the time. The other thing I would say is that we are crying out for more local tour guides, especially in the Highlands. And we are crying out for people with foreign languages. Right now, German is a huge requirement. We see down the line that the Asian market is going to explode. And that's something that I don't believe any of us are particularly well geared up for. At the moment, I'd be delighted with German. That'll be great. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to have to start learning, aren't we? We're going to have to get one of those things you put in overnight, hopefully, learn a new language.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. And many thanks to all our guests today, to Richard Alexander, to Adele Walsh, Karina McKinnon. Richard, are you good to go? You're fine. Sometimes he likes to get the final word.
Well, just to say, the chat room's been brilliant.
Thank you very much to you in the chat room. I believe there's been a lot of great information being shared in there, so please do keep that conversation going. Get in touch with each other beyond this. You don't need to just speak to each other during this interactive tutorial. Give out your email addresses if you're happy to do that, and discuss what you're doing that's working with each other, and we can all share and improve. But yes, thanks to Richard, to Adele and to Karina for taking the time to join us today to share their insights and experience. We very much appreciate it. Thank you. This session will be available in full on the High YouTube page. It's High Communications. There's also other really useful films on there packed with expert advice and practical tips. So have a look on there, youtube.com/HIE Communications. So next week we've got a topic which was specifically requested by you. We're looking at search engine optimization, SEO, for tourism businesses. So I hope you'll join us for that, 10 a.m, same time, same place. Well, actually, we'll be in a different studio, but next Wednesday at 10 a.m, we'll be looking at SEO. So please do join in for that. There's still time to sign up. Just go to the Tune Into Tourism page on the High site. You can follow us on Facebook, as Richard has said a couple of times. We do Facebook live sessions on a Tuesday and a Thursday, and again, those are interactive. You can comment and ask us questions during those. We will be sharing some more insights from the Cruise Summit in those sessions. So that's Highlands and Islands Enterprise on Facebook. But for now, thank you so much for taking part. It's been a great one today. Keep that conversation going and get in touch with us if you've got something to share. I've been Julia Sullivan. See you soon.